Well, since the year 1999, when the new East African community was formed, there has been a lot of optimism and hope that finally the East African community will hold together for the longest time. Of course, there has been disagreements here and there, but the question is, how do we move forward as a community, and how do we deepen interactions and integration? Well, to help us with this discussion is the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of East African Community, that is Dr. Kevit Desai. This will be our discussion plus more. Thank you very much indeed for finding time to be with us. You know, this discussion we are having here is coming at a time when, you know, Kenya and Uganda, you know, they look like they have renewed the areas of cooperation, like they have established a new engagement platform with the recent visit by the president. What do you make of this?
I think it's been very successful, very promising by way of some of the pronouncements that have been said, and indeed activity already on the ground, you know, with respect to addressing issues that were concerned, like sugar imports into Kenya, but most importantly the ability for us to create mechanisms now going forward to have consistent bilateral dialogue. And this indeed really is supportive and facilitative of the overall EAC region, with respect to ensuring that as much efficiencies are there within the common market, you know, the customs union, the monetary union, all with the view of ensuring that as a bloc we stand to gain more by way of ensuring that we promote greater intra-trade between ourselves, promoting greater value chains for export purposes, and having a position, a platform in order to invest heavily in opportunities for external value addition in view of the growing consumption across the globe in certain areas like agriculture, where developing countries are consuming more than 60 to 70% of their produce from external sources. So this promotes the opportunity for us to build upon these relationships with the view of a value proposition and a co-beneficial relationship which supports aspirations of industrialization, you know, prosperity, development, and so on.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at you know, the East African community, you know, it's made up of 6 members. At some point it was billed as one of the fastest integrating bloc in the world. But you know, since it was reformed again back in 1999, intra-regional trade still stands at 15%. You know, SME's contribution to the regional economy, you know, is less than 25%. What exactly is not happening? How do we deepen, you know, integration or trade and integration among members?
The 4 pillars, for example, the customs union, the ability for us to establish one-stop border posts which promote greater efficiency by way of goods crossing partner states. These are fully integrated customs systems which have all the different agencies like security and health, all fully integrated together with the tax structures. And that harmonization then promotes greater levels of throughput of goods. And so what was taking, you know, a day to clear now takes, you know, an hour or so. And in terms of movement of people, it's usually less than 10 to 15 minutes. So this has greatly contributed to the overall development of trade between partner states, in particular the trade which is sustained from abroad and into countries. We've seen exceptional efforts even in these COVID-19 times to keep the borders open, and this is primarily because of a consensus between states to promote a multi-agency effort. Partner states have brought ministries together to ensure that they've had to address all the hindrances, thereby promoting not only the international standards with respect to health protocol within the partner states, but now going on to facilitating by way of driver applications which enable certificates to be verified online, and now even an e-health pass which promotes greater levels of productivity for drivers to cross across opportunities. Efforts have been put in place by way of the consolidation of the single customs territory, the efforts towards ensuring that NTBs are addressed. In the year 2020, 16 NTBs were addressed. Further to that, mechanisms are being developed in order to be more efficient in the way NTBs are approached. In this sort of environment that is absolutely dependent on consensus, it's dependent on ensuring that EAC consistently and progressively develops those 4 pillars of the common market, the customs union, the political federation, and the monetary union, all with the balance of ensuring that we are a value proposition for investment and further development. What determines investment is the market indeed, the standards that are clarified by way of ensuring that there's not only predictability but the ability for people to invest in attaining those standards, and then the promise of that market once attained. And I think that you're beginning to see this within the EAC by way of value chains that attract greater levels of investment and cooperation. The complex world of business depends on a very close link between the productive sector, the farmers, as well as the public sector, in order to ensure that we are able to not only align but promote greater levels of integration towards these common efforts.
Yeah.
Within that context, we've seen many projects being invested on within the EAC, from 728 projects in 2018 to almost 1,500 projects, and most of these projects are dedicated towards common areas of markets and manufacturing and other key areas. So indeed this platform that we see is promising from all perspectives.
It's obvious. I mean, there's no way as a bloc you're going to grow if there's suspicion among member states, and we have seen a situation whereby countries are blocking or closing their boundaries to other countries. For example, in the case of Uganda and Rwanda, we have also seen a situation whereby Tanzania is restricting the movement of Kenyan business people into Tanzania. And so how should these issues be addressed to ensure that yes, when you look at the 7 priority areas for 2017 to 2021, it talks about enhancing the free movement of people, but when on the ground, I mean, somehow things are completely different. So how do you ensure that all the 6 member states they read from the same script and they act accordingly? The
demand is there because with respect to free movement of people, because it promotes technical expertise to access different markets. And we need to question currently, our current status, which is on average within the partner states contribute by approximately 9.7% to GDP as far as manufacturing is concerned. The astonishing figures which are of great concern include, the fact that we only trade between ourselves at 15%, that only 20% is extended as far as the MSME sector is concerned within partner states as far as trade and services. All of this shows the lost potential, and a lot depends on people, because it's people and human capital that develop industries, promote services, promote trade and commerce. And within this context, while the EAC has managed to formalize and regulate the areas of qualifications at upper levels of doctorates and engineers and so on, One of the areas that we are embarking on is the recognition of qualifications for artisans, craftsmen, master craftsmen and technicians. And what will this do? Well, by the nature of ensuring that qualifications are dependent on standards, then it'll promote greater competitiveness and an ability to ensure that people and EAC citizens would be judged on merit based on their occupational standard. And I think that this is the way forward in order to deter any kind of ill feeling with respect to certain communities getting jobs or countries getting jobs as opposed to others. It's the ability to collectively agree on the standards, to understand and appreciate that the standard prevails in economic development, and for the larger amplification for all to prosper. And it's from this perspective that the occupational standards that we develop would be also to an international potential, with the view of ensuring that the mobility is not only restricted within the EAC but also within the African Free Trade Area and into the global arena. That capability is now worthwhile as far as investment is concerned, because when you look at 150 million people, the majority of them being young, it is a demographic dividend that is a value proposition for investment as far as skills development, science, technology, innovation and research. And I think that within this context we have a chance within the EAC to ensure that it's drivers like technology, science and skills that really help us leapfrog from where we are into a platform which is highly equitable, promotes greater equality and ensures that all have the possibility by way of their skills and their preparation to join industry.
And when you look at the bloc, I mean, with a combined GDP of almost 180 billion US dollars, where Kenya is a dominant economy, with almost 110 billion US dollars worth of an economy, then how do you create a platform where one country like Kenya is not viewed by others, with a smaller economy like South Sudan, for example, as a country that is likely to overrun, for example, their industries, their businesses, because of its advancement in the areas?
Well, indeed, what the aspirations of various partner states are common by way of promoting greater levels of industrialization, the ability to be people-centric, for the EAC to permeate to all the EAC citizens, the ability for us to ensure that we promote greater security and health, as well as cooperation within the agricultural space in view of the extended markets and opportunities that exist. And it's within the context of these aspirations that the EAC institution and the treaty then tries to establish a fabric and a framework to promote this integration. And the way we would see it going forward is that indeed consistently the ability for us to ensure that markets are developed and accessible throughout the EAC is really a precursor to equity of access by partner states, and the value proposition for them to keep investing in a much larger market space, the ability for us to create links as a bloc as far as EAC is concerned with other international blocs like the European Union through the EPAs, or the ASEAN bloc, or the trading bloc between the United States and East Africa is absolutely critical. And I think that these are the sort of larger opportunities that come when we are able to optimize and collectively ensure that we collaborate and integrate by nature of our systems and promote the necessary structures from a systematic perspective of ensuring that we harmonize policies, legislations, regulations, standards, infrastructure, the ability to promote greater coordination, to the extent that a citizen from the East African community doesn't feel misplaced, that the economy is open to all and opportunities are amplified and extended to all. To illustrate further, a young person from Tanzania building a ship in Mombasa, for example, or a farmer from Nyeri being able to know that his harvest can be traded all the way into Congo. And it's that ability for us to create systems and create that ecosystem, which may not exist by way of our current status, but into the future holds every promise for us to invest as a community, as citizens, to establish this ecosystem.
Yep. And we have seen a situation whereby some member states have gotten into trade agreements with countries outside the bloc. For example, in the case of Kenya, just the other day they signed a trade agreement with the United Kingdom after leaving the European Union. There are also discussions, trade discussions between Kenya and the United States that are still ongoing. And this has somehow ruffled or made some member states, to feel uncomfortable because they're supposed to trade as a bloc. But when you remember that, Kenya also went ahead and signed, the economic partnership agreement because some countries, within the bloc were delaying. So how do you remove this kind of feelings like some members are betraying others? And at the same time, how do you ensure that if a country is willing to move ahead because the others are delaying, they can do so as well?
Within the treaty, there's a scope to ensure that you bring this to the attention of the Council and inform them of the opportunity. And as such, Kenya has made great efforts to ensure that a flexible arrangement exists so that, at a later date, a country that may not be ready at that particular time has a chance of joining. I think that within this context, this is a positive feature within the context of partner states as they come to consensus and agreement on areas of specialization in industry and service sectors, and in time to come promotes that ability to further aggregate by their presence. And I think that it should not be viewed really as something that's totally independent, but interdependent. And so if certain partner states are at a certain level, they must take advantage of an opportunity with a view of ensuring that they inform other partner states like we did as Kenya, but at the same time ensuring that they also negotiate a far more flexible opportunity for further partnership to join such agreements. And I think that the important opportunity here is that when we negotiate as a bloc, we come out much stronger. We're able to address and promote our own standards, and at the same time ensure that we're able to gain greater value by way of the way we negotiate for export and import.
Let's talk about the Monetary Union, which was signed back in the year 2013, and countries were given a grace period of about 10 years, before they can start creating or creating a common currency in the region. We are now in 2021. I mean, there has been not a lot of discussion towards these. Are you convinced that the common currency is likely to come into force in 2 years' time?
The Monetary Union too is a very essential pillar by way of ensuring further access and ease. What shape it takes is something that we're yet to determine. Indeed, various protocols as well as institutions have been developed, like the East African Monetary Institute is in the process of being developed, all with a view of ensuring that we create the necessary policy, legislation and the regulatory environment for something like this to take place. On one hand, there's a lot of progress and the aspiration is intact fully, and we hope to make considerable progress in the next year by way of further structures and frameworks being developed. On the other hand, we can see that increasingly more and more is becoming digitalized as far as monetary efforts, and this innovation and technology will also be an opportunity for further combination and collaboration towards that same end. Kenya still promotes greater levels of financial investment within the EAC by way of banks as well as insurance companies, and capacities therein, to play a more significant role as a financial hub for both lending as well as other kinds of opportunities based on financial systems. We recently heard the overwhelming success of economic trade based on remittances by M-Pesa and other forms of transactions that take place. So within that context, there's potential for great diversity by way of ensuring that we're able to create that fabric of collaboration.
Mm-hmm. And Kenya is now the current chair of the East African Community. What should we seek to achieve, by the time the tenure of the current head comes to a close?
We have, in many ways, already laid tremendous frameworks. Our investment as far as transport is concerned has been exceptional. The interconnectivity of systems, the multimodal transport systems from the coast all the way inland through various mechanisms, whether it's the SGR, the investment in roads, the investment in shipping systems within Lake Victoria and ports, are all an investment to promote greater interconnectivity within the EAC region. Similarly, the road network is expanded, and through the EAC's decision-making process and strategic process, more and more structures are being created. The ability for us to connect is absolutely absolutely critical. The ability for us to lead by way of our existing capacity as far as manufacturing is concerned, to create interdependent value chains where we're not simply dependent on produce coming in to the factory, but we take a step further to ensure that we manage the entire value chain from farm gate to processing, and in particular to ensure the quality of inputs, the health of the inputs, and the ability to ensure that farm level productivity is increased to the benefit of manufacturing prowess, thereby creating an end-to-end ecosystem. That cooperation in agriculture is essential in view of the huge potential as far as exports are concerned. The possibility that these agricultural value chains have a very unique advantage in that they create a backward and forward linkage, which means that they're able to be accessible by all, and the return felt by all citizens within the EAC community. The important role of labour movement and the recognition of qualifications and skills and experience is an important area and could create great dividends, as we witnessed in the hospitality sector, where Kenyans are well known within the East Africa to run hotels and other entertainment structures, but extending that as much as possible so that we're able to complement on other skills and capacities. And indeed, the promotion of social and cultural interactions, the cooperation we have in various other social spheres with respect to science and technology and innovation on cross-sectoral issues like the locust invasion. And all of this will have an effect by way of ensuring that we all realize in a very short time and increasingly promote that compassion of the importance of integration by way of the outcomes that it promotes.
What is the future of regional integration? I mean, bearing in mind that the European Union, one of the biggest members, one of the dominant economies, the United Kingdom, decided to part ways, on the grounds that it was becoming a weaker nation, in the bloc.
Well, that trend internationally has, of course, created great concern, and especially with respect to the imbalance that they felt, which resulted in Brexit. And some of the key areas that we need to be on the lookout for, their aversion towards foreign labour within the United Kingdom, their ability for manufacturing, and the feeling that manufacturing had been outsourced abroad. Within that context, there are very many dynamic and unique situations which essentially are very much part and parcel of that decision making. Our situation is highly different in the sense that that there's opportunity all around us. There is the potential that and the realization that as individual partner states we're not able to have enough of a market or opportunity to increase the investment or to promote the diversification that's needed in different state sectors. So that ability to work together as a bloc becomes absolutely critical, promotes the self-reliance, promotes the overall inclusivity, and ensures that trade, commerce and industry supports the overall development of the economic bloc. Further to that, we have a growing opportunity within the continental free trade area, the African free trade area, and that creates further opportunities for volumes and quality products and standards, and to tap into what's already happening currently by way of ensuring that we turn the tide of intra-trade from 15% well into the 90% area, where we're able to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, and essentially promoters of value addition based on the market that exists, the rise of the middle class, the ability to work our resources to our advantage.
Finally, where do you see the East African community in the next 10 years?
Well, the aspirations of the EAC with respect to the customs union, the common market, the political federation, and indeed, the monetary union would be at such an advanced stage that it would be greatly inclusive to more EAC citizens as far as their wealth creation and prosperity is concerned. And that is a target that we are looking at consistently. How do we ensure that it progressively increases the opportunity structures for all EAC citizens? So in 10 years, we'd hope that 100% of EAC citizens feel the benefit of the EAC and its programs, its policies. And indeed, we're at a stage where we're able to promote that cooperation and collaboration as efficiently as possible for greater value addition as well as aggregation of opportunity. And I think that at that stage, it would have achieved most of its objective and be in a phase where it would be looking at transformation as opposed to the building structures that are now taking place by way of all the mechanisms and structures being put in place and the constant engagement and consensus that it's developing in order to keep all partner states all integrated and fully appreciated of the powerful extent that it has.
Thank you very much indeed for finding time to be with us on Inside Government, and all the best.
Thank you.
Very good. Well, we have been talking to Dr. Kevit Desai. He's the Principal Secretary, Ministry of East African Community, of course joining us to help us understand what's happening within the bloc. And according to him, regional integration is the way to go. Very optimistic that in the next 10 years, the EAC will be much more integrated and will be a force to reckon with, not only here in Africa, but around the world. You have been watching Inside Government. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Always a pleasure to have you. We do this again on Thursday at the same time, right here on KBC Channel 1. Have a good night.